Recently, I made a reaction to Arknight Endfield, and it literally blew my mind. I was really curious, and thank you so much for the comments, by the way. And I came across the video where someone played this game for 100 hours already, so I would like to watch this video with you guys, maybe having a little bit discussion, because the trailer was really amazing. The gameplay looks fun. Based on what you guys told me, there are some factory features, which seems rather interesting, so let's begin.
Arknights Endfield is a highly anticipated upcoming gacha game made by Hypergriff, the studio behind Arknights. But calling Endfield just a gacha game would honestly be a huge disservice to the game itself, since Endfield feels, looks, and plays like a premium AAA title. From the incredible graphics
I was about
and
to
detailed
say.
characters to the world and the satisfying
Also, look
combat.
at the jiggle physics.
Endfield plays
Hold on.
graphics and detailed
God
characters
damn.
to the world and the satisfying combat. Endfield plays more
Looks
like a
amazing.
modern JRPG game that has a huge emphasis on base building like Satisfactory or Factorio. You can't climb or swim like the classic open world RPG games, but you can build gadgets and place different buildings that can change the overall landscape and have a huge impact in the world. It is really enjoyable, and sometimes it even feels like you are playing a sandbox game. Endfield is currently having its first closed beta, and I have now put over 100 hours into it since it came out.
It looks like so much fun.
I've barely scratched the surface of what the game has to offer.
He played 100 hours and he barely scratched the surface? That's insane.
Both mechanically, exploration-wise, and combat-wise. Also keep in mind that the game is in its first closed beta test, and things can always change and more things can be polished and added. First, I want to talk about the story presentation.
Looks already polished.
Endfield, and
really
I will
well
keep
polished.
this completely spoiler-free since I want people to experience it by themselves. The story feels good and is constantly engaging you as the player with different cinematics, different characters always having moves and having different poses. The game constantly does unique character angles while they talk, so you'll feel more engaged.
That's nice.
It is because Endfield does one big thing that I like, and that is show and tell the story. For example, one big thing that I really enjoyed is the combat briefings before big story missions, where they would show you the current mission you were going for, the map, and the current objective in a stylistic 3D way, where it always felt like I was playing something similar to Metal Gear Solid. The voice acting of characters feels extremely polished as well, since every single character has a unique accent to them depending on what region they are from, and it portrays the characters' emotions even more. All in all, to keep it short, I thoroughly enjoyed myself with the story, since it never felt like the characters were just standing there.
I mean, I just gotta say, I am not a huge fan of stories in a game unless it's something like a Witcher, right? Like, Witcher 3 is probably one of a very few games that I'm rather enjoying the lore. But again, if the story is nice, then it's just gonna be a little bit, you know, nice sprinkle to already very well looking game.
Staring at each other and constantly talking. Also, no black screen cuts of important things. As I said, the game does one tremendous job of showing and telling you the story and the narrative. Alright, now it's time to talk about the gameplay and the world.
Hell yeah.
As you can see, your team consists of 4 characters, and one big thing is
combat
your
looks
whole
amazing.
team is present at all times. Something similar to games like Dragon's Dogma and the Xenoblade series. As you are running around the world as a team, the characters interact between each other with different lore drops, jokes, and also help you in giving tips if there are rare minerals or collectibles nearby. They also help you out when farming resources in the open world. The combat revolves around unique interactions between them, and it just brings more life to the game as you are playing it.
It feels like this is like a ult. Maybe you can guys correct me if I'm right or wrong, but I kind of like it. I'm not sure what it is, but it seems to be something like a ready to ult. So if I am, let's say, playing with this character, there's gonna be recharge spell or the ult of other character, and maybe I can use it to, you know, burst the NPCs rather quickly.
Previously said, the gameplay is not open world, but it relies on big zones and biomes, where the zones have more world in them than open world games. What I mean by that is that the zones are big and they are always filled with stuff to do. Be it finding secret areas, unlocking new areas by progressing your zone, many different collectibles, building towers, and changing the zone to your will. Building ziplines for fast traveling, putting time into your factory, and changing the landscape and many different things. Since the game doesn't have climbing and flying, it relies on multi-level design. where you can find and open many different shortcuts by crafting explosives and using them to blow up a new pathway, power up different jump.
I think we are already or only 3 minutes into this video, and I can already tell what he meant by I only play 100 hours and I barely scratched the surface.
Cables and pads to get to the higher grounds, or lower ropes to make access to new stuff and new areas easier. Honestly, as I was playing and exploring the level design, to me it felt like the original Dark Souls, where many different things are interconnected, and once you open or solve a puzzle, you feel immense satisfaction from it, and you are like surprised how everything is so well connected. The huge maps also feel unique in their design and have different biomes. Some maps have more integrated sci-fi and technology to them, some are more open world and cozy, some are big factories where it feels like you are playing a near game, and some are just insanely cinematic and beautiful. The sound design is really good, but I have to say that I
wonder if this is something like a waypoint based on what I've seen in Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves.
They work more on the
kind of looks like a waypoint
of some maps, since some maps just lack that distinct background sound design to them. But as I said, it is beta and they are constantly sending us surveys and actually asking these questions, especially when it comes to map design. One thing I also want to mention is that some maps have a mini factory system called Outposts that you can upgrade by putting necessary resources into them. What this does is it upgrades that map's outpost and changes the surroundings of that map area. You can also raise or lower the world level of that zone once that outpost is a certain level. Raising the zone, of course, increases the level of all enemies and bosses on the map. It gives you better and an increased item drop quality, and also provides you with more minerals and many other different things, like giving you the ability to put more gun towers or zip lines around the map. All of this now brings
like
me
a
to
common
the combat
thing
system.
in most
and
games,
let me be
right?
clear, the combat system is not your average spam hack and slash action-based combat, but it is more of a style of a JRPG. Still action combat, but it emphasizes more on the tactical and positional aspect, and has very different reactions of its combat and elemental reaction system. Visually, it is really pleasing and has so many different layers of team building. And I personally love that there are so many interactions between the
I'm already sold.
I will try to keep this segment as simple as possible, but the overall combat loop is you have basic attacks, skill attacks, combo attacks, which are pretty much QTEs that trigger, depending on your team, different reactions, and ultimates that have their own bar that is filled by using skills and combo skills. Skills have no cooldown because everything is connected to that yellow bar at the bottom, which is the skill system. The yellow bar regenerates slowly over time, but executing different combos or skills or having different gear allows you to generate the bar faster. Now, there are both physical reactions and elemental reactions. Physical statuses, you can do something like knockback, lift up, knockdown, counterattack, and these can all be reacted to each other. For example, if you use a skill that does lift off, it will apply a debuff called where the skill lifts up the enemy and it makes it levitate in the air. Then if you have a character and a skill that has a knockdown effect, that character can use that knockdown effect to slam the enemy into the floor, applying a knockdown effect, where it will be stunned for several seconds while it's trying to get up.
I need to put some notes.
Reactions are great for stunning and building faster stagger on the enemy bar. Alongside this, we also have elemental reactions that have 3 categories: Arts Infliction, Arts Burst, and Reaction. Arts Inflictions are status debuffs like Fire, Cryo, Nature, and Electricity, but Arts Bursts are when you do 2 of the same elemental attacks on the enemy, which causes different elemental bursts of damage. And finally, one of the best things is we have reactions of all these different elements, like Combust, Electrify.
Still can't get enough.
Finally, one of the best things is we have reactions of all these different elements, like
this Combust. I assume this is one of the very first characters that we gonna get or we happen to see in the game, but if we can get more of these characters like her, oh my god.
Electrify, Solidify, and Corrode. They all do different reactions depending on what you do. Some make the enemy take more damage from
this
all elements,
one that looks sick.
Freeze, or we have something like the Corrode debuff, which reduces defense on the enemy over time. I will stop at this because I don't want to make this whole video just about the combat. All you need to know that it is really engaging and has a lot of depth, and most importantly, it feels extremely satisfying to play. I
Yeah,
love when I
especially
have
that
the ability
fire
to pull
effects.
off like 4 to 5
Looks
different
amazing.
character combos back to back to back to back. And most importantly, it enables each and every single character to be useful and shine. While we are on the topic of combat, I really want to mention one big thing, and it is the different enemies, elites, and bosses in Arknights Endfield. Because the elite and boss fights really feel like elite and bosses, where they have different combos, hit really hard, have different unique mechanics
Yeah, you
and
can
skills
see
to
it
them, and
right
they feel
here.
really fun to battle against. Some enemies
Wow.
and elites also have different phases or different berserk stances, and also they have the stagger bar, where once you fill it up, they get stunned. But not only that, your character can perform a big cinematic stagger attack once they get stunned, where the camera slightly zooms in and the character
This
does a
looks so
unique
cool.
special attack depending on the character that you are currently using, which makes the staggering of the enemy even more satisfying. Also, each elite and boss has strong moves and grabs like you are
Again,
playing a
that's
Sekiro boss,
cinematic.
where you can interrupt them with your skills, but if you don't, they can either grab one of your characters and one-shot them, or go full berserk and do a Tekken wombo combo.
It's kind of
on
like
your
Wuthering
ass.
Waves,
So the learning
right?
curve is really satisfying when it comes to elites.
I'm not
and
sure if they
bosses.
fix it, but
And now
there
it
was
is
a day where
factory discussion
someone
time. The
prepped
children
you,
yearn for the mines,
and you literally like get one shot. So if you didn't dodge, sometimes you get grabbed by that boss and like wipe out.
the factory must grow. Now, as mentioned earlier, the
This
game
looks
has a
so
big
complex.
emphasis on factory gameplay similar to games like Satisfactory and Factorio. When you first see it, it will feel intimidating, but the game has
Yeah.
a really well-made tutorial and simulation where it teaches you each specific thing about the factory and how to play it. I can promise you that if you try and really give it a shot, you will quickly get hooked on it. The factory gives
Yeah,
you
I
the
can
ability
tell.
to make and produce almost all resources in the game automatically. Crafting different potions and
really?
food buffs, increasing productivity for your own minerals and unique items, and
Oh
it is
my
constantly doing that while you are even offline. So if you build a good factory that produces
That's
materials, you go
game-changing.
to bed, you wake up the next morning, bam, you have so many materials that you can use to craft your gear, stuff, and everything that you want. The factory is also really
Oh my god. That's like oasis to my ears, not gonna lie. Sometimes I don't have enough time to play on a daily basis, right? So hearing this, it's really nice.
in depth with its own skill tree and lets you just have fun building and producing stuff. It can take a while getting the hang of it, but
Also, I can see already some bunch of tutorials how to build a special factory for this and that purpose.
once you finally get a rare material to start producing and everything works, nothing feels more satisfying than that. I have personally deleted and started over my factory several times to make it more clean and produce materials that I need, depending on the different stages of the game I was.
Okay.
I honestly can see myself
thought he
doing
did it
it
just for
over and
fun.
over again because optimization is king and optimization is addicting. You can feel that the
Yeah, that's
developers
true.
put a lot of effort into this factory system. One
Wow.
big thing is that the factory system is used for crafting your character gears. Yes, you can just craft the gear you want for your characters. There is no
No
RNG
way.
involved when it comes to making it and equipping it to your characters. You
Another
can just make
oasis
your
to my
factory
ears.
produce the necessary materials, you go to bed, you wake up the next day, you can craft your gear whenever you have enough
You
of those
golden.
materials. And to me, it feels
Wow.
amazing just being able to craft without any RNG involved or spend months
already love
trying
this
to get
game,
a
to
few
be honest.
pieces for your characters to even be playable. I really enjoyed this system, and anyone out there that is not
Yeah,
a
it's
fan
nice.
of RNG gearing will absolutely appreciate this system.
Yeah, I
But
do.
you will ask me this: if the gear is not RNG, is there a way to give the player the chase of the absolute min-max of your characters? And there is.
From the
It is
bosses,
called
right?
Weapon Essence. Essences are RNG items that drop
Oh
from
my
normal
God, look
world
at that
enemies,
sword.
elites, bosses, and many different other gameplay systems that involve combat. Every weapon in the game has an essence slots in them, and slotting the essence in that slot will increase the stats of that certain weapon. It can go from giving you more stats like strength, agility, intelligence, to crit rate, crit damage, and even raising the unique status effects from that certain weapon. I personally really like this system because it doesn't feel forced
Okay, let me see. So intellect boost XP, then we got the basic attack, and we got also some modes or some, you know, extra effects. I'm actually wondering, can we craft such a weapon in the factory? Because at this point, like, what's the, like, how are they gonna monetize the game? Are we gonna pull for the characters only? Because I could imagine if it's gonna be like, you know, Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, or perhaps maybe like other gacha games, we could maybe pull even for some, you know, like really OP weapons. So far, what I'm hearing, it's like too good to be true.
On you,
That
since
everything's
you can
free.
just go and equip an essence that gives you a main stat and a few other bonuses, and you are done. But for those that
Oh my
love
god, look
the
at that
absolute
sword.
chase of a min-max
Even
character,
this looks
stats
nice.
and weapons like me, this system is really fun because it engages you to play the game more, and it engages you to do open world combat and other gameplay modes. It is time to talk about the gacha. Let's gamble.
Okay,
So there are
let's
only
gamble.
two gacha currencies in the game: special currency and normal currency. Special currency can be bought or it can be earned by playing the game and the main story.
Okay.
The special currency can also be exchanged into the normal one and used for pulls on the character banners. It is straight up the same
That's a
system
nice
as
pulling.
Arknights. The character rarities are 4-star, 5-star, and 6-star. The thing is, when you
6-star?
roll on the character banner, you only get characters. No weapons or other meaningless fluff stuff. Just
okay.
characters. And I really appreciate this since you can max dupe out your 4 stars and even 5 stars really fast.
No, that's
I
actually
also
true.
really need to put an emphasis that all characters are really strong. The 4 stars, 5 stars, and 6 stars all have their own unique gameplay to them, and you should not look at the rarity system so
Oh my god, this looks like a showcase. Like you're going for some like a concert, you know, or theater, and you see this like really large background. This looks so cool. Have we seen this 6-star character? Because I feel like these two yellow one are the 5-star.
much when it comes to Arknights Endfield. Everyone is strong, it just depends on how you build your team and what characters you like
But
playing.
building the
Some
dupes,
4 stars are insanely
That's
OP
amazing.
that they even trump the 6 stars in terms of what they do. Now back to the character
Wow.
banner, the max pity is 80 and there is a 50-50 system. But if you lose the pity, you don't get the main character, you just need to roll 40 times more until 120 and you get the character guaranteed.
That's
So
game
even if
changing.
you lose the 50-50 at 80, the max
This
pity is
changed
actually
everything.
120 for the guaranteed character. Comparing this to other gacha games, where it can go
That's
to a
big.
full pity and be 160,
Yeah.
it feels extremely good. Also, after the limited banner is over, the limited character will be added to the standard banner, similar to how it is in Arknights.
I
So
like
in
it.
future patches, when you
I'm not sure. I never played the Arknight, but I'm playing solo leveling Arise. This system is in here as well, and I really appreciate it. So we don't have to, you know, wait for another banner to come out. Rather than we can pull it like normally later on.
lose the 50-50,
That's really good thing.
you can get the limited
Oh.
characters that were added to the normal standard banner.
Ah,
You don't
okay.
need to wait for the character to come out again in a limited banner for like a year or 2 years if you missed it. And
Yeah,
every
the-
time you pull on the
Genshin
character
Impact?
banner, you also get the weapon banner currency. For example, if you did 100 pulls on the character banner, you would also get the equivalent of around 60 to 70 pulls for the weapon banner depending on your luck. For each
Wow.
4-star that you pull, you get 50 weapon currency, each 5-star you get 500, and each 6-star you get 1,500 banner weapon currency. To do a 10 pull on the weapon banner, it is 2,980, so like 3,000. When it comes to the weapon gacha system and the currency, you can get a lot of weapon pulls just by playing the game and the story. You can get it by pulling on character banners, by completing endgame modes which give up to 20 pulls every week,
Oh
or you
my
can
God.
just swipe if you want. The big thing
Yeah.
is, when it comes
You
to the
can
weapon
swipe.
banner, is that it is 25-75 ratio. So it's 25% of getting the limited weapon, but don't freak out because the drop rate for the weapon banner is 4% for the 6-star weapon,
that's high.
which is 5 times more than in any of the Hoyoverse games like Genshin, Honkai Star Rail, or ZZZ.
I mean,
where it's
we don't even need to start.
0.8%. Also,
Yeah.
for every 40 pulls that you do on the weapon banner, you are guaranteed a 6-star weapon drop. And the guarantee for the limited drop is 80. So for example, if you do 120 pulls on the weapon banner, you will get a minimum of 3 6-star weapons if you go full pity each time. In the grand
I
scheme
want to
of
play
things,
this
the
game, not gonna lie.
4% is huge.
When is
And
the
in
release?
the current beta test, I have gotten more 6-star weapons in Enfield than I have ever in Honkai Star Rail or ZZZ by playing them
Wow.
for over a year. And that says a lot. Do I defend the 25-75 ratio? No, I don't, but at this moment it feels like a superior weapon banner compared to every other gacha game, because of how many ways there
Based
are
on
to
what I'm
acquire
hearing,
the gacha weapon
yeah.
currency. Also, the 4-star, 5-star, and 6-star weapons all have unique designs, powers, and attributes to them, and everything feels
Weapons
good
looks
and
nice.
usable to play. At the end, all I want to say is don't get it twisted, because the character banner and the weapon banner are actually pretty good. Now that we are done with the weapon banner topic, let's talk about the daily loop, logging, and endgame that we currently
Okay,
have in
this
the
is
beta.
also really interesting because I gotta say, I kinda hate dailies. As you play the game more and you seeing these dailies, to me, it kinda feels like a chore. At some point, as a free-to-play player, you kinda feel the urge, the need to do the dailies to, you know, get a little bit ahead so you can pull for more characters and more weapon banners like later on. But also with that being said, I gotta say, like, doing the dailies, it kind of feels like a chore, and over time, especially if I'm playing more than one game, over time it kind of kills the fun in the game. So, well, let's hear
So
it.
you have dailies and the stamina system as every gacha has. The dailies are
No.
really fast, and you can get around 10 different things you can do every day. You need 100 points to complete the dailies, and missions give between 20 to 80 points. You can do and finish the dailies in about like 3 to 4 minutes. It's really fast, it's really flexible.
Okay.
The daily currency reward is 400, and for one
That's actually
pool
good.
on the banner is 500. We don't know how much stuff the monthly card will give or how Battle Pass will work, since those are currently not in the beta. The daily stamina system is called Sanity, and the cap is 360.
Sanity.
Yes, you heard it right. It's 360 max stamina
Oh,
cap.
wow.
When you start playing the game, though, the stamina cap will start at around 140, but each time you level up your account, the stamina cap will increase by 5.
okay, got
the
it.
stamina cap maxes out at 360 or when your account hits level 50. Also, 1 point of stamina recovers every 7 minutes, which is around 8.5 stamina per hour. The stamina can be spent on
Got
different
it.
rifts, which are combat-based dungeons where you can obtain different materials for upgrading and maxing out your characters. Pretty straightforward stuff. When it comes to other daily activities, you can do RE Crisis, which are world boss fights, Unstable Arenas, which are
nice.
unique one-time challenges.
I'm not sure if I'm like going like ahead of time, but I'm actually curious if he can mention if you exceed, you know, this sanity, if it gonna like accumulate maybe like 50% slower ratio, something like we have the condensed resin in the Genshin Impact and that cubes in the Wuthering Waves.
Challenge dungeons and energy alluviums on each different map, which are open world rifts that you can interact with, and the enemies come in waves of normal enemies and elites that feel like mini bosses. These are done for the
Mini-boss.
RNG essence farming that are already mentioned earlier. Since these energy alluvium rifts are in the open world, you can also be pretty sneaky and just craft a fully operational
Oh
tower
my
defense
God.
mode with cannons
Wow.
and Tesla coils that can help
can
you
just
out
go
in
AFK.
combat and pretty much just autoplay this stuff. All of these things that I mentioned don't
Wow.
require any stamina to interact with or play. They just have a small cooldown to them. Along that, you will also go around the map and pick up rare resources that spawn every day to further upgrade and min-max your characters,
That's
be it
really
levels,
handy.
skills, or upgrading weapons. The current only endgame mode that is in the game is called Algorithmic Memories, which is a mix of character parkour and boss rooms that also
Parkour.
give you various different buffs and ways to approach combat, making it different before you even start the run. It has things like parkour, different puzzles, and
Oh,
boss
this
combat.
looks cool.
At this very moment, it feels a little bare bones, especially in the enemy variety department, but this is a great foundation for something amazing in the future. There is no
Yeah,
time
I
to
believe.
beat it. You can just play it and finish it. There is no timer that you need to beat. Personally, I find it really enjoyable
That's
to play at
nice.
this moment, and I hope they further improve upon this idea. The current rewards are also really big since you get a ton of materials. For the gacha weapon currency particular, since it's 20 pools for gacha weapon currency
Yeah.
a week. If this
I actually like hearing all of it sounds really amazing, so I'm kind of curious and wondering how they're gonna monetize it, or if it's gonna be even, you know, like successful enough to sustain this quality like over time. so the
days
game
like
can
it is,
stay a
that
little
means
longer.
you can guarantee a bare minimum of 2 6-star weapons pools per month just by playing the game. So let's hope that it stays like this and it further gets improved upon when it comes to this mode. There are also many different things that I didn't mention or go in depth with, like the dorm system, being able to interact with all your characters, giving them gifts to increase more story and lore drops, seeing them in the open world doing their own things, and more in-depth factory combat mechanics and gameplay mechanics. Since this is my first ever review that I did, I wanted to keep it more on
look
the
at that
simple
cat,
side,
so cute.
but this game has such an abundance of different genres and gameplay systems, all
I can
mashed
tell.
into one big game, that I just couldn't make it any shorter.
I think what he just mentioned, it makes perfect sense, because based on what I've seen like so many different fields that you can enjoy the game. So I believe even though there might gonna be a person who is not like enjoying maybe the fight that much, maybe can go and build the factory, you know, and things like that. So I really like the variety that we can get in this game. It looks really, really interesting.
I merely wanted to give an overview of the game, and I can say that this beta has really left a huge positive impression on me, more than I thought it ever would. I will cover and release more videos when it comes to Arknights Endfield, be it combat, factory gameplay, showcasing of all the characters, and just make fun Endfield content. So if you are looking for that type of content, be sure to subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and like the video. Anyways, thank you all.
Well, I really appreciate this guy. Such an amazing explanation. Links will be in the description, of course. Because like I said, I am very interested into playing this game and hearing all these good things, especially in the gacha games. I'm just gonna be patiently waiting for this game to be released. Perhaps if you buy any chance in our Discord, we can send more videos that we can react to and having a look maybe on other gacha games. Yeah, Arknights Endfield, really excited for that. And obviously the first playthrough, we gotta do it on the stream for sure. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully see you in the next video. And in the meantime, have a lovely day. Take care.